Good evening. This regular meeting of the Carrabelle City Commission is now in session. It's Thursday, March 7th, 2024, 6 p.m., and we are conducting this meeting in the Carrabelle City Hall chambers. We'll open with a prayer by Commissioner Millender, and then we will say the Pledge of Allegiance, and everyone please stand.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we gathered here again to perform and conduct some good, healthy business on behalf of the city of Carrabelle. And we always thank you for the many blessings and gifts that you bestow upon us each day. Please give us the wisdom and guidance that we need to perform our business here tonight and conduct us in a manner to make wise decisions. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, thank you all for being here. We have a nice little crowd for a change. That's good. Just want to remind you all to silence your phones, and I've made sure my phone is silenced this time as well. If you all want to speak under public comment, please fill out a speaker card and give that to our city clerk, Ms. Keisha. And also, if you want to speak under any agenda item, I'll give her a speaker card as well. We have the, unless you have, now Mr. Sean, you have an item on the agenda, so that's fine. We have, up next on the agenda is our consent agenda, and that has the February 1st, 2024 regular meeting minutes, the February 20th, 2024 special meeting minutes, and our attorney's invoices. So would someone like to, first of all, did everyone have a chance to review these documents?
Yes.
Okay. And would someone like to entertain a motion?
Motion to approve.
All right. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Keisha, that motion is by Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Brown to approve the consent agenda. Do we have any discussion? Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. And the next item on the agenda is public comment, and this is where the public is allowed to speak on any item regarding our city business, that an item that is not on tonight's agenda. Is there any public comment?
I've got Lee Osteen.
Okay, Ms. Osteen. Just say your name for the recording. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Lee Olstein. You turned it off.
Mm-hmm.
It's red. Red means off. Sorry. So my name is Lee Olstein, and I'm a resident of downtown Carrabelle. And I wanted tonight to bring to your attention, discuss the Avenue D, where it turns into behind the graveyard or the cemetery, where it's like a dirt road and it curves around. I walk my dogs there a few times a week, and I just don't know if anyone knows that it's kind of become a public dumping ground of items, and there's a lot of garbage back there. And I know some of it is from bear activity. But there just seems to be a need for some general maintenance and cleanup along that stretch of the cemetery. And I just wanted to let y'all know, I don't know if we can have the city do it, or maybe I was thinking like the inmates at the prison sometimes come and do those sort of things. So I just wanted to put it out there, because every day there's more stuff.
Okay. And so it's like a dump site, like
There's
household.
some carpet down there. There's like
Oh.
an animal cage or crate that's the new thing. So it needs a little love.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And Ms. Courtney will have the Streets and Roads Department
Thank
come
you.
over and take care of that. And they have inmates that work with them.
Okay, and if you have any questions or need anything.
Okay, thank you for the heads up. We appreciate it. Is there any other public comment? Okay. All right, then we'll move to commissioners' reports. And Commissioner Walden, do you have something? Commissioner Brown?
I have none.
All right, and Commissioner Melander?
I have none, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Gray?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, and I do have something, I'll just make up for all of their not having anything. I thought Commissioner Brown would remind everyone of the ribbon cutting tomorrow, so I'll go ahead and do
Figured
that.
you had that one.
No. So we've got a ribbon cutting opening our new military service flag memorial there at Veterans Park, and it's at 9:30, and the American Legion, some representatives are going to be there as well to help raise the flags. So if you all have an opportunity, just stop by to be a short little ceremony. But I just wanted to mention that on February the 27th, I participated in a construction visit to the Lighthouse Septic to Sewer project, along with DEP representatives, Courtney and Charlie Painter. The visit was organized by Mr. Crow, who's the program manager with the Northwest Florida Water Management District. That is the agency that funded that entire project with a grant. And we went to two different job sites and saw installation of 2 grinder pumps, and that signified the close of the project, which now serves 192 new water and sewer customers out to the west of Carrabelle. The Water Management District is organizing a ribbon-cutting event to commemorate the end of this long project, and the event will be in late March or early April at the Crooked River Lighthouse Park on a Monday or Tuesday. So y'all keep this on your radar, especially for the commissioners. And then on Friday, on the 29th, several members of the local public, along with Commissioner Melander and myself, we participated in the Regional Rural Transportation Plan public workshop that was hosted by the Appalachia Regional Planning Council here at City Hall. And that ARPC staff is working with the FDOT to receive public input from members of the surrounding 5-county region on what they consider would be the most important transportation needs over the next 20 years. The anticipated types of projects include resurfacing, roadway capacity, turn lanes, connectivity, crosswalk safety, and public transportation. And they're going to have a second series of meetings in Franklin County in May through July, so those will be advertised as well, and that will allow additional public comments. And keep that upcoming event on your radar. So last month, I reported on 2 legislative bills that propose requiring water and sewer rates to be the same for customers inside and outside the city limits. And due to inflation and the new minimum wage requirements, and as you all saw on your water and sewer report, the Florida Rural Water Association has been conducting a free rate study for the Carrabelle Water and Sewer Department over the past several months. Once we know the outcome of the 2 proposed legislative bills, which will be in July, we can hold a workshop where a representative from the FRWA can present their rate study results to us and the public, and they can lay out rate options as they apply to the legislative decisions and give the commission and the public a chance to weigh in before actually altering rates, which must be done by ordinance and could happen much later this year. And then, as a heads up, at the Tuesday County Commission meeting, the director of the Franklin County Solid Waste reported he is developing a presentation that will demonstrate how much the county is spending to provide free monthly amnesty days, free county-wide yard debris pickup, and to clean up illegal household garbage dump sites, just like the one that Ms. Olstein just described. He estimates the report will show the county is spending approximately $1 million annually on these free services, and said these services will not be sustainable because of inflation. At that meeting, a county commissioner explained that adoption of mandatory garbage would be needed in conjunction with discontinuation of the free garbage services. If these free services are discontinued, the city too may find itself needing to adopt mandatory garbage service. And as a reminder to this commission, May of this year marks the end of a state-required 3-year notice that was sent to all garbage collectors doing business inside the city limits. Completion of this 3-year notice would allow the city to entertain bids from commercial garbage collectors to provide mandated service. And this, too, must be done by ordinance. So just to, give everyone a heads up on what's coming in the future.
Can we get that on the agenda?
Well, we wouldn't put it on the agenda till May comes, yeah. And then, and it was in mid-May, sometime like that, so you wouldn't put it on the agenda till June. Is that correct, Mr. Hartman?
Yes.
Okay. March 9th marks the 1-year anniversary that Chief Robbie Hogan took his oath as chief of the Carrabelle Police Department. He's in here tonight. And I want to congratulate Chief Hogan on completing his first year as chief, and I commend him for his dedication to the city and his department. And I thank you very much for your service. We appreciate all you do. Thank you.
I'd like to add to that.
That was very
Okay,
nice.
very good.
Yes.
And go ahead, sir.
I would like to add to that and also compliment the Chief Hogan and the entire police department. They have made leaps and bounds improvements in this last year in many different areas and all law enforcement areas and what they're handling. And also the appearance, if you will, of our city police department. It's drastically improved over the last year, and my hat's off to the entire department and Chief Hogan for what they've accomplished. Thank you.
Yes. I actually brought a newspaper for the chief. It's from a year ago, and it's got a picture, a big picture of the chief taking his oath. I'll give you that later, and then Miss Keisha's giving his oath. So, all right. All right, we're going to go on to the attorney's report now.
Really only two things to report. The first is just my apologies I had talked about getting with Steve Allen, I will, on a management agreement at Lighthouse Park. I should have that for you at the next meeting. The other is if everybody has had when you have a chance to review the amended truck route ordinance 461, the chief put a lot of work into that, as well as Courtney. And if you all would please get me any of your thoughts, comments, questions, and we'll get those worked out and try and have it ready for you. We'll integrate any of those and then we can have it up for first reading if you'd like at the next meeting.
I read it, and I appreciate all the work. I know y'all have been working on this for 3 or 4 months, since Mr. Thompson came forward last year, and I do appreciate it. I don't have a problem with it. There's one area that needs the word "to," and I'll point that out to you. But I think it's in good order, and I would recommend that we go ahead and put that on the agenda for first hearing in April at the April 4th meeting, if that's all right with the commission.
Do we need a motion?
I don't think we need a motion for that.
No motion necessary. We'll bring it back
Okay.
for first reading. We'll make any of the certainly any clerical edits, and if anybody has any questions or more on it, we'll
Okay, so
address those too.
we'll do that for April the 4th. That will be first reading under public hearing. And then May will be second reading. And then we'll take action in May. And then on your draft property management agreements, then will you have that as we'll have that as an item?
Yes, you'll have that as a something to review and approve or not.
Okay, we'll put that as a new business item.
Will
For
we
April.
have those before the meeting so we can?
Yes, I'll try to get it to you at least 10 days before.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other comments or anything?
Not at this time.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Hartman.
Thank you.
And then we'll move to Ms. Courtney, our city administrator.
All right, I sent out the department reports, the police department, and the streets and roads. I didn't get one from water and sewer this month. Do y'all have any questions?
I thought thought I got one.
Yeah, we got a
Did we?
water and sewer.
I did.
I've been crazy.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I think
Okay.
I read one.
So update on the water and sewer department, the new billing software. We've got it installed and it's up and running. There have been a few obstacles, but we've been working through them. There's now a $1.95 charge for all the ACHs. So if they automatically withdraw it out of your bank account, it's going to be a $1.95 fee. There's always been a fee for credit cards. The difference was that we were handling the ACHs in-house and we weren't charging for them. But now this company, they do all of that, so they are charging. But you can opt out if they don't want to pay the $1.95 fee. Let us know, we'll take you off. You can write a check or pay cash. It doesn't cost anything. The new billing software also offers lots of new payment options. You can Apple Pay and Cash App, or I'm not sure what they all are, but there's lots of new payment options. You can set up your online account so that you can monitor your billing and opt in for notifications when, if there's some water outage or something, it'll send a notification. So just call the water department to find out how to do that. The water plant building rehabilitation, the painting is scheduled to start this week. He actually was supposed to start yesterday, but they didn't have water down there, so they had to get him some water to pressure wash. The hurricane loss mitigation program, we're ready to start reviewing those applications, and we need a committee to do that. It's a 3-member committee, and the staff sits as one of the members. So I had Keisha send out an email to all of our planning and zoning board members to see if there was any volunteers, and we had 2. The first 2 we had was Patty Lee and Vance Pedrick, so I'm asking for you guys to recommend them for our review committee.
And if you approve of that, if you're recommending those two.
I am recommending.
Okay, well, we would have a motion then to recommend Patty Lee and Vance Pedrick.
I'll make a motion to approve those 2 as mentioned by the city administrator and herself on that review committee.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
And Ms. Keisha, we have a motion for the 2 recommended members for the Hurricane Loss Mitigation Program. Motion by Commissioner Millender, a second by Commissioner Gray. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and that motion carries.
Yesterday, I was contacted by Mr. Alan Richardson with OR, and they have an opportunity to apply for another FWC REEF grant for the year 24-25 in the amount of $60,000. They're going to go ahead and apply for that grant, and if it's awarded to us, then they'll come before the commission and ask for permission for grant management assistance. But we've done several of those grants with them, and they've always been very successful. Mm-hmm. And they do most of the work, and we don't really have to do anything. It just runs through the city. Mm-hmm. That's all I have, but I will be giving an Aviation Advisory Board report.
Okay. Do we have questions or comments for Ms. Courtney? Anyone? All right, thank you, Courtney. And Ms. Keisha, the city clerk report.
Okay, I also had the ribbon cutting for the Veterans Park for 9:30 tomorrow on mine. We have March the 19th is our CRA meeting, regular CRA meeting. March the 21st will be a regular P&Z meeting. We already have 2 items for that. March 29th, the city of Carrabelle, or City Hall and City of Carrabelle will be closed in observance of Good Friday. Our next regular city commission meeting will be April 4th at 6 p.m. And after speaking with Mr. Royce, we realized that our July 4th meeting is on a Thursday, and we will be closed that day. So if you want to consider rescheduling that meeting.
Mm-hmm. And in the past, we have generally, this has happened a couple of times since I've been on board, and we pushed the meeting out 1 week.
We try to keep it on the Thursday.
On Thursday, and so that would be July the 11th. Is that correct?
Yes.
What do you all think? Can you all handle that, July the
That'll give everybody
11th?
plenty of advance notice.
Right, then let's make a motion, let's have a motion for that to change the July 4th regular city commission meeting to July the 11th, 2024 at 6 PM.
I'll second.
Well, I guess I made the
Okay.
motion then. I'll make the motion.
You did.
Right, okay. So we have that motion, second by Commissioner Brown, and I made the motion. Is there any discussion? All right, and let's remember to remind our public of that. And so those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Do you have anything else, Ms.
No,
Keisha? Okay, do y'all have questions or comments, anyone, for our city clerk? All right, then we'll move forward to Enovia's report. Mr. Russell Large.
All right, thank you for our DOT Small Communities Grant for Baywood. We've prepared that application, sent a draft over to Courtney, and that will be submitted on March the 15th, and that's done in phases as we have discussed. On Lighthouse, that work is continuing as the mayor has already reported on. From Marine Street, we're working on the change order for the electrical receptacles, and we've sent an initial punch list to the contractor. The summer camp water interconnection grant was not awarded. So we have been looking and evaluating for some other grant programs for that particular interconnection. There are some programs where the cycle is open in June and July, so I'll give you a report on those in the next month. Okay, on Ryan Drive, that project let for bid. Bids are due on March the 14th, and we do have a list of contractors. Okay, on the golf cart crossings, we have finally reached approval with the Department of Transportation. So you have a maintenance agreement. The mayor has signed that, and we'll provide that back to the department. And once we get final approval, the city can proceed and install those signs. For the Lanark West and Lanark East sewer improvements, we've begun work on that. We've been coordinating with Fred Fox, providing him some information. So we're proceeding with the design effort there. And then lastly, on water well number 5, our new well, we prepared the consumptive use permit, submitted that to the Water Management District. We did receive some review comments back already, and we're addressing those comments.
Okay. And for everyone's information, and it was reported in the water and sewer report, he is working proactively on developing that well, a new well.
Yes.
At the Carrabelle wastewater treatment plant. All right, do y'all have questions for Mr.? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
go ahead.
Russell, back on the golf cart crossings on 98, did I understand you to say once DOT approved it, we could place the signs?
Yes.
Well, I was under the impression that we're not allowed to put signs on 98. That's a DOT highway and responsibility.
It is a DOT highway, and the maintenance agreement describes that those signs are placed by the city, and they'll be maintained by the city, and they will be within the DOT right-of-way.
And they will be by DOT standards.
Yes.
Is there, I asked the question because I've heard it before in other instances that we've had things happen on 98, and DOT has been quick to inform us that that's not our highway, that's theirs. And I was
That
just
is true.
asking that question
That is
about
true.
those signs.
All right, well, so we submitted plans to them showing where the sign is located, and specified that those signs are in accordance with the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which DOT accepts. They're standard signs accepted by DOT, and that's what they have approved.
Okay.
I believe that's how it was managed when we put the crosswalk, and that was finally approved after a couple of years, the crosswalk at Veterans Park to the 4th Street boat ramp.
Right.
The city installed all of the crosswalk and the warning signs and everything, but it was done to DOT standards, and we're required to maintain that as well.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Brown.
I have a question about the Marine Street project with the sidewalk drainage issue that we discussed.
Yes, that's part of the change order. That's
Okay.
included in the change order.
Okay, thank you.
And then I have a question also about the Marine Street project. On your punch list to the contractor, does that include the boardwalk railings that Commissioner Gray had brought up?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, very good.
And there's some curb that was broken, and it includes that as well.
The curb has been repaired.
Okay.
Sure
Great.
has. Okay. All right, yes, sir.
One other question on Marine Street. On those bolts, have all of them been completed?
No, that was mentioned in the punch list. And I have not communicated with contractor to know if that's been rectified or not.
I've made one visit back down there since you and I talked, and I found one to be totally missing. I don't know if it's been, since I've been there on that visit, whether it's been replaced or not, but there was
Right.
one totally missing.
Right. And we will follow up with all those items in the punch list. We may have more items,
Okay,
and we'll make sure that's done
thank you.
before final payment.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Large? We thank you for your report, sir.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate the work you're doing for the city. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on then to our advisory board reports. And Ms. Tamara, I believe you had something to request. You needed a motion here under your report for roadway closure.
A week from Saturday, which will be the 16th of March, we are holding our fifth annual Carrabelle Culture Crawl, which is an event put on by the Carrabelle History Museum. And we are, last year we used the first block of Marine Street from 98 down to just this side at Just Right Marine in order to put out both music tents and also some vintage cars and trucks. And we'll have that again this year. And then we have on Avenue B, we usually close up to Paul Markson's driveway. And we have all the museums and some from Appalachia. And then we have book signers and characters dressed up in costumes wandering around for photo ops. And then this year we have a nice selection of various music that'll be in a tent there next to Gina's. And then we have invited several local people to do Castnet demonstrations, including Commissioner Walden, who's also been invited, and hopefully some people who are mending Castnets as well as throwing them. So we're hopeful of having a variety of local activities. The little poster says history, culture, arts, fun, and music. And so we have art for the kids. And then we're lucky this year that the plein air Florida activity is going on in the county. And that morning, they're doing a quick draw down at the pavilion. And I'm not asking to close off that far down, but I am just asking to close the blocks. First block on 98, and then we want to stop the boat traffic at Avenue C. So we usually put up one of those big signs there and tell them to, all boat traffic go down Avenue C.
So basically, you're asking for closure on Marine from 98 going south to Avenue C?
Right, basically.
Okay, and
So-
then Avenue B from Marine Street up to
Right.
the X on right in there,
right
that area.
to the fence there.
Okay.
People could still park in
In front of Harry's, and they can still park cars in that area as well, the way we have it done.
Okay. Do we have any comments or questions on that before we motion to close? All right. Do we have a motion to close then those two roadway
will-
sections?
I'll make a motion to close Marine Street from 98 to Avenue B with the sign on C stating boat traffic to detour, and then Avenue B to the accountant's office.
And for anybody that has a store or anywhere else they'd like to hang a poster about Culture Crawl, I have some available with me tonight, and I can get you larger sizes if you need a larger size, or if you need a smaller size. Reminder, I have little small ones with me. So,
Credit card size, right?
So anyway, and we're also, the other thing I just wanted to remind you, the 16th is the day that we're opening the exhibit in the Carrabelle History Museum on Tate Cell, the place Tate Cell, the legend. And so it's turning out extraordinarily nice. And it's at 2:00, and we would invite all of you to come and be a part of that. Smoky Bear's coming from Tate Cell to approve it, and hopefully you all will like it too.
Okay, so we had a motion to close these roadways. Did we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. And do you have anything else, Ms. Tamara?
No, we'll let you know if there's anything going
All right.
on after Culture.
Okay, do we have comments or anything from Ms. Tamara?
We're
Questions?
excited.
It's going to be fun this year.
Okay.
It's fun every year.
Very good. All right, then, thank you, Ms. Tamara. We'll move on to the Carrabelle Aviation Advisory Board report or discussion, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Courtney.
I sent you guys all, I forwarded you the email, but on February the 9th, Mr. Tim Sullivan gave his resignation to the Carrabelle Aviation Advisory Board. Mr. Sullivan chaired that board for 8 years and took care of most of the day-to-day business and advised the city staff of what needed to be done at the airport. On February the 26th, we had our monthly Aviation Board Advisory meeting and discussed the board reorganization. We have 3 potential members interested in being appointed to the board. We have Ernie Newberry, DeLacy Peavy, and Brian Hearn. Mr. Hearn and Mr. Newberry attended the Aviation Advisory Board meeting, and we spoke with Mr. Peavy on the phone, who stated his interest. The board voted to recommend to the commission adding of all 3 members. At that time, they did not vote on a new chairman, as we left that open because we needed more board members to have a full board. And so they'll do that at their next meeting. Since Mr. Newberry is at the airport pretty much every day, he's going to be my contact person to let me know when things need to be done. If we need a new windsock or the fuel needs to be ordered or the gate needs repaired, he's there and he can call me and I can take care of those things. I mean, hopefully when we get a new chairman, they'll kind of take on some of that as well. Then we have Mr. Bruce Graham. He volunteered to attend the Northwest Florida Regional Airport Planning Meeting in Pensacola on the 29th, and he represented the Carrabelle Airport, and he came back with a lot of good information and made some good contacts there. We had our fuel tank inspection on March 4th, and everything looked good, and we passed. And we have our annual airport inspection on the 15th, and we just need to take action on appointing the new board members.
I'm gonna make a motion to accept the recommendation from the city administrator on the airport board appointments.
And I'll second that.
Okay, Ms. Keisha, that motion is by Commissioner Milner, second by Commissioner Brown, to accept the 3 members for the Aviation Advisory Board, Mr. Newberry, Mr. Hearn, and Mr. Peavy. Is there any discussion? I just wanted to say, thank you, Ms. Courtney. That was a good and comprehensive report. I appreciate it. She doesn't normally do the Aviation Advisory Board reports. That's been done by Mr. Tim Sullivan. all these years, for 8 years, as Courtney said, and I'm going to say, I've got a little something to say. I wish Mr. Sullivan was here, but he leaves a huge loss to the Carrabelle Airport itself, to the Aviation Advisory Board, to city administrative staff, and even the FDOT staff in District 3, and to the local flying community. He has played the major part in restructure of the airport and the recent growth of the Carrabelle Airport, which included bringing the current economic impact of the airport up to $3.2 million from the $666,000 when he stepped in as a volunteer 8 years ago. His ongoing commitment over these past 8 years has set the course for the Carrabelle Airport going forward for the next several years, and this includes the recent infrastructure projects that are currently underway, the $6,935,000 FDOT-funded infrastructure projects scheduled through 2028, the new Carrabelle Airport Master Plan, airport administrative policies developed by him over the past 8 years, and operational procedures set by example that are now the standard for our airport. And there's much more. And I cannot thank Tim Sullivan enough for his guidance to me with the airport, and to Ms. Courtney, and his volunteerism and his dedication to uplift that airport and to bring it into the circle of other small Florida general aviation airports. That is an asset to this city. And I send also a sincere thank you to his wife, Cindy, who enthusiastically supported Tim during his time of public service. And I thank Tim, and I wish him happy trails. Okay. Okay.
Mine.
Go ahead, sir.
Mine's not quite that long, but I'd also, from my behalf, like to thank Tim Sullivan publicly for his dedication, his volunteerism, and I've said it sitting in this seat since I've been sitting here for about 6 years. Volunteerism is phenomenal. I highly respect volunteerism, just like that lady sitting in that chair there in the aisle. But anyway, I wanted to thank Mr. Tim very much for his dedication and volunteerism and the hard work that he's done for the Thompson Field, or the Carrabelle Airport, for the 8 years that he's been there. Thank you, Tim.
All right. And so we need to now vote on this recommendation from the board, the sitting board, for these 3 new members. And we have this motion and the second. And those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that carries. All right. We'll move on then to the Crooked River Lighthouse Association report. Okay, Mr. Steve Allen reports that he has nothing this week or this month, and all these, if there's any written reports, like Ms. Tamara always gives a report, they're available from the clerk's office by public record request. Okay, then we will move on to our public hearing portion. And we'll turn the floor over to Mr. Hartman for Proclamation 012024.
All right. This is a proclamation for National Volunteer Week, April 21st through 27th of 2024, whereas the entire community can inspire, equip, and mobilize people to take action that changes the world, and whereas individuals and communities are at the center of social change, discovering their power to make a difference, and whereas during the week of April 21 through 27th, 2024, all over the nation, volunteers will be recognized for their commitment to service, and whereas the giving of oneself in service to another empowers the giver and the recipient, and whereas over 22% of Floridians volunteered in 2023, and whereas volunteers are vital to our future as a caring and productive community, and whereas a volunteer saves a national average of $31.80 an hour for the organization it volunteers for, whereas in Florida a volunteer saves the organization it volunteers for an average of $29.41 an hour, whereas volunteers give of themselves for no other reason but to improve our community. Now, therefore, we, Carrabelle City Commission, do hereby proclaim April 21st through 27th, 2024, National Volunteer Week in Carrabelle, and also urge our fellow citizens to volunteer in Carrabelle and Franklin County. Also, we urge others to recognize those who serve by tirelessly sharing their time and talent with those in need.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hartman. Do we have questions regarding this proclamation that was requested to us by Mr. John Solomon of Apalachicola?
I motion to approve.
Okay, very good.
Resolution 01-2024 and have comments.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
All right, and that motion is by Commissioner Brown, Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Brown to approve this proclamation. Yes, sir?
Okay, and as I alluded to a few minutes ago, and I didn't want to take away the thunder from Mr. Tim Sullivan and his dedication as a volunteer, and I'm probably going to miss one or two, but I would like to recognize the volunteers in the city of Carrabelle. We have a volunteer fire department, no paid. We have a volunteer planning and zoning department. We have a volunteer airport board. We have the volunteer history museum. She's sitting right there. We have volunteerism at the Lighthouse Association. What have I missed, members?
We have volunteers at the library.
Exactly. This community is full of volunteers, and we would be lacking and going without a lot if we didn't have the volunteers that we have that dedicate, as was said in the resolution, their time, their efforts, and there's no compensation except for the good feeling they get to be a active part of the community, and they enjoy doing that. But I, for one, have always admired volunteers, and I appreciate them very much.
And I'll say the senior center as well, and thank you for listing those. I mean, you know, and the CRA board. We
There
have
you go.
two volunteer members on our community redevelopment agency board, so they are dedicated, and we want to treat them with respect.
Absolutely, and thank them very much.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, that motion is by Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Brown. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. We thank you. Mr. Hartman, your ordinance second reading for ordinance 493.
All right, and so this is ordinance number 493. This is what we've been commonly referring to as the alcohol ordinance. We've gone over a lot. This is the final reading, so this is adoption. An ordinance of the City of Carrabelle, Florida, amending ordinance number 443 as amended by ordinance 480, which is an ordinance, which are ordinances pertaining to the sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages within the city limits by amending the distance and manner in which the distance between said sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages and churches or schools is measured, providing for additional definitions, providing for repeal of ordinances inconsistent herewith to the extent of such conflict, and providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hartman. And I will just say real quick, we began this, each time we discussed this, I gave a history on the evolution of this ordinance that we have before us now. And I'm not going to go into detail. I've got the history here before me if someone wants it. We started working on it back on July 6, 2023, and each draft, we had 3 drafts, and then we came with this final. Each time, those drafts were read word for word, and the final was read word for word. I believe it was in December the 7th, and then we had our final, our first reading last month. We read it again word for word, and so we're here today for our final reading. Do we need it read word for word?
I don't think so, but I'd like to make a comment
Okay.
on the public's behalf. And Mr. Attorney, correct me if I'm wrong. We're not modifying bars, the alcohol ordinance on bars.
Correct.
What we added to it was restaurants, and we modified some distances and requirements for restaurants to serve an alcoholic beverage. We didn't make any changes for the requirements on a bar.
And the only change we made is the method of measurement. So instead of property line to property line, it is door to door.
That's correct. We made that on the measurement. That's correct. Yeah.
Main entrance to main entrance.
Main entrance to main
Main
entrance
entrance, that's
for
correct.
both bars and restaurants.
And shortened the footage 350 feet to 350.
For restaurants.
For
Yes.
restaurants only. Yeah.
And for standalone bars, that still remains at 500 feet.
That's correct.
That
entrance to main
standalone bars basically we're referring to as facilities that don't serve food.
Correct.
But anything then from between 350 feet to 500 feet, we can have alcoholic beverages served with food.
Yes.
And that percentage of food is required by state law. When they apply, they'll understand. When they apply to the state, they'll understand how much food. I believe it's 50% or something. I don't know for sure, don't hold me to that, but they do have a certain percentage of food.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And the effort of this, on my behalf, was all the years that business owners that want a restaurant and to be able to serve their customers an alcoholic beverage with their meal. It wasn't an effort to change and modify anything for a standalone bar, but for a restaurant where their customers can come in and they prefer to have a beer or a glass of wine or something with their evening meal, it allows them to be able to do that within this 350, or anywhere beyond 350 feet.
And we discussed that extensively in each of the meetings, and we've had it every meeting. We've discussed this since July the 6th, and we all agreed that what we had our request over the years from the public was that they wanted to be able to go out and have a meal and be able to have a relaxing glass of wine or beer or even a mixed drink if they have the capacity. The state requires a certain amount of seating for mixed drinks. So, and that's what we agreed upon.
And Commissioner Gray is the one that brought this to us in July.
All right, is there any further discussion, any questions, or anything from the public? Because we do have quite a few members from the public that I know are here for this reason. So, I mean that you never come any other time, so I'll just go ahead and say it like it is. But I'm glad you're here, and I wish y'all would come more often. So, does someone want to entertain a motion?
I'll motion.
Okay. You're going to motion to approve this ordinance 493?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Second.
Okay, and that motion is by Commissioner Gray and second by Commissioner Brown. And do we have any further discussion? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. All right. Well, we're going to move on then to ordinance 494, and this is the second reading as well.
All right. This is an ordinance of the City of Carrabelle, ordinance number 494, an ordinance of the City of Carrabelle amending and modifying the terms and conditions of ordinance 328 as amended, also known as the Sunset Isle and Yacht Club Ordinance, providing for additional permitted uses of the property in Phase 1, repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith to the extent of such conflict, and establishing an effective date. And what this does is, a number of years ago, the Sunset Isle and Yacht Club Ordinance was amended to allow RV usage in Phase 2, what they call Phase 2. They came to us, the association, with the agreement of the association to extend that into Phase 1, to allow Phase 1 to also those lots to also be used, if they want, as RV lots. So, and again, we had asked that the association, we get confirmation from them in writing that they're supporting this, as well as acknowledging and agreeing to comply with the city code regarding removal of RVs during storm events and that sort of thing. And we received all that to our satisfaction, and we processed this ordinance to this point.
Thank you for the explanation. Do we have questions regarding that? Do we have questions from the public?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, do we have a second? Okay. All right, Ms. Keisha, that motion is by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Walden to approve ordinance 494 regarding the Sunset Island Yacht Club. Is there any other discussion? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries unanimously. All right, we thank you. Okay, we're going to move forward now. Up next on the agenda is a quasi judicial hearing. Do we want to take a recess or anything, or do we want to push forward? Is everybody okay? All right, then we'll push forward. So we're going to move on to, I'm going to call to order and convene our quasi judicial hearing. And we have item 1, disapprove special exception for residential use in the C1 zoning at 112 East Meridian Street. And this is requested by Candace Wilson. And I'm going to turn the floor over at this time to Attorney Hartman for his staff report on this item.
All right. And this one is, we've received a lot of communication on this one. And what I'll do is give you the background. And the way I suggest proceeding is, and actually even before we get started, has anybody had any ex parte communication on this item? Has anybody contacted you regarding this? I know there have been some emails that everyone's copied on. Those will be part of the record, as well as the staff report and anything the applicant wants to introduce. But if anybody has had any ex parte communication, now would be the time to disclose it, beyond the emails that'll be part of the record.
I have not. No one's contacted me other than the emails that were sent.
Okay.
For me. Has anyone else? Has Mr.
Nope, I'm good, except for that.
On this item, it was presented at P&Z by Ms. Barber as the representative of the applicant. And after a good discussion, there was a lot of back and forth. The recommendation from P&Z was to deny the special exception 6-0, so it was unanimous. What I'll do is I'll just present the staff report that I've prepared on this, then certainly hear from the applicant. The commission can ask any questions that you have of either staff or the applicant, and then certainly any public input can be heard, and then you all would be, what would be incumbent upon you all would be to make a motion. Once it's seconded, then you all can discuss amongst yourselves, but certainly before that, you can ask any questions you want of myself, staff, Keisha, the applicant's representative, and anybody from the public that has input. So as far as, I'm going to call the basis for the denial, recommendation of denial at P&Z, because this is tricky because you've had a lot of special exceptions come before you, and typically we've had special exceptions where there's a residential use of a piece of property, and that use, people come in to seek a special exception because they would wish to continue that use but have a change in ownership. And those have routinely been granted. The more difficult situation that have resulted in some denials and some approvals are the situation where all this property now being in the C1 commercial zoning district, where a party seeks to change the use from commercial to residential, or basically where it's a vacant piece of land, start with a residential use of a commercial piece of property. And by reference, you all will remember some of these, was the, just by example of some that have been turned down in the past, were the owners of the Fisherman's Wife wanted to do a residential development next door on the vacant lot that was turned down by P&Z. It was not accepted. There was a townhome project, residential townhome project on Avenue B that was proposed on a vacant lot, and it too was turned down because the city at that time, and these are all fact specific, so you guys have the hard job tonight of looking at this as each one is different, and you just consider the factors. On that one, the city, it was Avenue B, we had spent a lot of money improving it, and we improved it to be a commercial hub and build our commercial district in the city. So moving forward from there, in In the past, P&Z and the commission have been reluctant to change a use, whether it was an abandoned use or a current use as commercial into residential, in order, because they were, the concept was to preserve commercial uses and not have encroaching residential into our, any more than we already have, into our commercial zones. So I cite different pieces of code that are applicable and specific to this case. So these are the kind of the facts from the staff's standpoint about this case. In 2011, the property was marketed as a commercial piece of property. From the standpoint of a for sale sign, this was all attached to the staff report, talks about commercial property for sale. It is obviously a house. So many years ago, it was built as a home. Like some of the law offices, like the Fisherman's Wife, they were built as a home, but then either used as for commercial purposes as well. We have restaurants in town like this and everything else. So at that site, it was advertised. It was then sold to the current owner in 2016. And in 2017, the owner submitted court filings that talked about his purpose of purchasing the property was foremost as a small business and location for a Carrabelle attraction as a hurricane museum. This was, again, advertised through Division of Corporations, as well as signage on the property for a sign, a lost treasure sign and design, as well as a hurricane museum. There was signage up at the property advertising it for that purpose, and these businesses were run out of that location. Again, in court filings, talks about generating sales from that location in 2017. Then you have the picture of the museum sign out front. The city has done business with Lost Treasure Sign and Design at that location. So they've invoiced us from that location, and we paid those invoices for city projects. Included in the report is the various companies that have been run and up through current run out of that address. As far as I know, that the owner, based on the communications that we've received, has claimed that it's been his residence this entire time since his purchase in 2016, and that may be the case, but he did not receive a special exception of the type that is the applicant in this case is seeking, and that you see very routinely, where someone has a residence, it changes ownership, and they come in and apply for a special exception. He's probably not the only one, and there's no active code enforcement or anything like that going on, but he did not get a special exception to reside in the home, which he should have done. But looking at the tax records, the owner of the home did apply for homestead exemption on the property in 2020. So about 4 years, 3 to 4 years after the purchase, applied for homestead tax exemption and received it in 2020. But the city has no record of that being we don't have any record of a special exception for residential use at that location. It has been, from the city's perspective, always used as commercial. And the corporate records and the records in the exhibit appear to show that. What really the commission needs to consider is, when we make decisions on these types of cases for special exception, we are setting policy. So we need to always apply the policy in a non-arbitrary or capricious fashion, right? We've got to try to apply it as uniformly as we can. And that does require us to look at the facts of each case. And P&Z, as I said, they did, one of our volunteer groups, they had a very good discussion, probably 20-minute discussion, going back and forth, talking about the pros and cons. And again, they voted 6-0 to deny the special exception, but that is only a recommendation. So you all have the final decision, and you all set the policy for the city moving forward. And when I talked about examples, previous examples, we talked about vacant lots that were commercial and this sort of thing. The way to think of this one would be, in my opinion, would be the different law offices in town, the again, structures that were built for residential purposes were then used for commercial purposes. Does the city want to see those go back to residential? Right? Is that in the best interest of the city? A special exception is within your discretion. It is not of right. It's not an allowable use. It's only a use by special exception when you're changing use from when you're changing in use to residential from commercial. So the reason I brought up Fisherman's Wife would be, my understanding is that was a home. It's been used as a restaurant. If for instance, someone bought it, came in under these same circumstances, those would be very similar circumstances. This decision does set a policy that I would recommend we follow, and I think the P&Z's recommendation was consistent with the policy that we've applied since all the way back in 2012, when this, I believe this came up, and Keisha, I know we talked about this, relative to a mobile home that had been demolished in the C1 district and leaving the lot vacant. And I think it was Mr. Gashi on P&Z. We started talking about how we did not, the person wanted to bring a mobile home back in for residential use, and it was denied. And that was kind of the formal beginning of this policy, where we have not, we've frowned upon going from commercial to residential uses, going in that direction in the C1 mixed use district. So if you have any questions for me, and certainly we'd hear from the applicant, but you can certainly ask me questions now and later on
Okay.
any of the attachments.
And I have a question just while you have just spoke. And under your staff report, you have quoted section 2.02.02, special exceptions. And it says that, and I have read this in the Land Development Code myself many times when I'm about to make a special exception decision. And it says special exceptions are not allowed as a matter of right. And then up above that you have, but permitted uses is section 2.02.01. Permitted uses are allowed as a matter of right. And this is not a permitted use that's being requested.
Correct. The single-family residential use is only by special exception in C1. The sign design, the Lost Treasure sign and design, the museum were both permissible, allowable uses in C1. So there's no issue there. He certainly was allowed to run those businesses out of that property. It was,
Now, I did not print out or bring with me the exhibits that you circulated, but it, to the best of my memory, one of the exhibits, I believe it's registered with Sunbiz, shows that there's still a business active there. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. I don't have any questions at this time. Do y'all have questions for Mr. Hartman at this point? Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Brown.
With special exceptions, if, say, this is granted and she sells the house in 2 years and they want to keep it as a house, would they have to come back and do the same thing, or would this be permanent?
They'd have to come back and do the same thing.
Okay, so it's not permanent, it's just with this owner of the house who's requesting it?
The applicant is, my understanding is a prospective buyer of the home. So the person applying for the special exception is the contract buyer for the home. So I guess she's saying, I want to know that I can live there if I buy it.
Gotcha.
Right. I mean, and that would be Ms. Barber could address that, but that's my understanding.
Okay, of Mr. Hartman? Okay, Commissioner Brown has several questions.
Yeah. No, it's good.
Okay. One of the most recent issues like this that we had come up was the house next to the Dollar General. And before that renovation, it was not livable. And that was in the C1 district, correct?
Keisha, is that correct? Yeah.
So no one was living there, and it literally had to be gutted and totally renovated. And we did grant them permission for it to be residential use, right?
Yes.
And we also gave them a CRA grant to rebuild this home.
Yes. I mean Keisha, but yes.
Okay, just
And
wanted to
ha-
make sure I remember
Okay, and
correctly.
had they used that as a business?
I don't
before?
know, it had
Okay.
been vacant for so long, it was just, I mean, it could have been like one of those vacant properties we were just talking about.
Uh-huh, okay.
To my knowledge, it's never been used as a business, to my knowledge. But that's just,
It
I-
couldn't
I
have been
forget
in its
things.
current state used as a residence either.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's make sure now we don't get too much into opinions until we have a motion. Okay.
Have we had any, this was, is a house, have we had any homes in, say, the last 5 years in the C1 district turned down for this special exception?
You're asking, have we had a home that was used as a business turned down for a special exception?
Have we
to go
had
to
any
residential?
homes in this, in the C1 district turned down for this special exception?
I don't think so. When I say that, we haven't had anybody try to go from commercial to residential in a home. We have not.
We haven't since I've been on board that I know of, so I didn't know. if
We've
I-
had residential to residential multiple times.
Yep.
We've just never had the
Plenty of
commercial
those.
to resident,
Right.
back to residential.
The rest are just opinions, not questions, so I'm good for
Okay, well,
now.
hold on to the opinions for
Okay.
now.
I keep my opinion to myself.
Okay. All right, do we have any other questions for Mr. Hartman at this time?
I'm trying to pinpoint right where this place is at.
Can I answer
The one
that?
12 and Ready and
Oh, well, let Mr. Hartman answer it.
Yes,
Okay.
it's, where it is two lots in from the corner. It faces, the back of Ganders, meaning the yard behind Ganders. And it backs up to Charles Curran's law office. It's the law office facing the road on 67, and there's a vacant lot that's also part of the Curran law office behind it. And then next to it is a home owned by, if you're facing the home to the left, is a home owned by a company. Is that the one doing short-term rentals, or the one on the corner?
The one on the corner,
Does
I think
short-term
they've
rentals.
moved in permanently.
Yeah, I think the one on the corner,
The one on
Is-
the
the one on the
corner's
corner
moved in-
hasn't changed, the one on the corner hasn't changed hands. That one's, been in the family, so that one hasn't come before
I
us.
know you know.
I do, but she,
Go ahead,
Okay.
all
So
right.
that's where.
Commissioner
does that
Bellinger,
help?
let him try now.
Keith, it's the house next door to Mamie and S.J. Robinson's old house.
Sorry. I should-
Across the street from the Masonic Lodge, in a way.
Yep.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
We think we've been there before. Okay,
Y'all been there before? All right, are there any other questions at this time for Mr. Hartman? Questions? Okay, then we have Miss Beth Barber, who I'm assuming is representing the property owner or the purchaser?
Well, I'm here representing the purchaser at this point. I do have the house listed, and I have it under contract with Miss Candace Wilson, who wants to live in the home, because it is a home, and it's next to two other homes and homes behind it. Even though there's an empty lot that's owned by Mr. Curran, it is not deep in the commercial district. It is just zoned C1, which does allow residential use, and that's what she wants to use it for. Her question is, why wouldn't they want me to be a resident? Don't we want residents? We have plenty of commercial buildings that are for sale. the old Dollar General, the Rio Carrabelle. Mike Harless has 2 properties that he would sell. The old Century 21 building, Mr. O'Neill's property right beside Merrill's is for sale. You have our new Family Dollar is for sale. We have a lot of commercial properties. This house sits beside, in between 2 houses, and on a residential other than Mr. Coran. So why can't she live in it? Why don't you want her as a resident? That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have questions? Now, we can't express an opinion to Ms. Barber yet, but do we have questions to Ms. Barber? Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, Beth,
Yes, sir.
you're representing the potential buyer in this request and not the actual owner of the property.
Well, I have his property listed.
You do,
But
but
he
this request.
is not asking for this. She is asking to be a resident.
Right.
Because I told her that she would have to apply for a special exception.
Right.
And that's what we're doing. That's what she's doing.
Thank you.
Okay, then, let's see if we have any public comments. Do we have any public comments? Would the public like to weigh in? Okay, Ms. Segrett, come and state your name.
I am Daylene Siegert, and I don't live in the city, but we have a business in the city. And I remember a few months ago, there was a gal here that wanted a special exception for the property across from where Sop Choppy Pizza is. That is a commercial listed in C1, and she wanted to be able to live there. And I remember the mayor was very clear about it's a busy area, and she assured the board that that was just fine, that she really liked the house and she wanted to live there. So, and I agree with the lawyer that was just up here that it is very difficult to find nice housing that's affordable in this city. And I would never think that to say to somebody, no, you cannot sell your house, just doesn't make sense.
Okay, and thank you, and thank you for that reminder. And then I will ask Ms. Keisha, and that is the house that's behind Martin's House of Coins. Do we know, was that ever used as a business?
Not to my knowledge. They had,
Okay.
the owners before had, I
So-
believe, had a special exception, but they had lived there for
A long
a
time.
long time.
Okay, so that had always been residential for quite some time, for many years, okay? And it seemed like someone else wanted to speak. Did you, Mr. Allen? Okay,
I have another question, though,
okay.
and this is just personal. What is the preference for, it was a business at one point, and now it wants to be residential, when residential is allowed under C1?
Okay, we'll let Mr. Hartman explain that
another
again.
preference.
He just
Sure, sure.
explained
No,
it to us.
Definitely. It is, I mean, it is a distinction worth making, only because residential, single-family is not an allowable use. It is permitted only by special exception. So it has the SE on that chart when you
I
look
have
at
the-
it,
I
right?
have the
So you've seen the
chart.
chart. Everybody's seen the chart.
Yeah.
And in this situation, the concern, and I think it was it discussed at P&Z, is that the Lysetts tried to do residential and commercial. They weren't allowed to. There was a person who was I think he was a contract buyer for a piece of property on Avenue B. He was told he could not. So this is different than those, because those were vacant property that we did not want to see developed as residential. But the same policy or the same idea sort of applies, is do we also, we can make a distinction because they were vacant. This one it has a home on it. But then by doing this, the commission needs to understand that if someone else comes forward with a piece of property that has a building on it that's been used for commercial use, that by doing this, they would then say, okay, fine, we'll let people go back to residential. They can always do commercial. They have a right to do that. That's an allowable use. But the residential is only by special exception.
Well,
So,
I have a question about that, because in your chart that you talk about, that you have, that I have a copy
sure,
of,
sure, it's in the code.
it says residential single family attached, that means two houses attached, requires a special exception. Detached requires a special exception. But if it was a manufactured home or a mobile home, it does not require, and you can live in it.
Hang on, how do you?
That's not the updated one.
It's on your chart that I was supplied from you.
It's the use that we're
So
talking
if it-
about.
if
A manufactured mobile home would be a single-family detached use of the property.
But it says right here, manufactured home, mobile home, it is not required for a special exception.
Well, it's blank, but
It's
then
blank.
it's not allowed.
It's not allowed
period.
at all.
Like you would not be able to put one in that.
And I believe that, to the best of my memory, I will ask this in the form of a question. I believe that many years ago, we adopted an ordinance that no longer disallowed, and if I'm right, we disallowed mobile homes in the commercial district. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe it was 2019. It was updated in 2019, which removed the mobile homes as a special exception in commercial.
They're
We
just,
removed
they're not,
it altogether.
yeah, they're not allowed.
But
as
most
far as-
importantly, on the chart, if there's nothing there, if it doesn't say P or SE or something else, it's not allowed.
It's not allowed.
It's not allowed. It has to be a P for it to be a permissible use.
Mr. Allen?
I'm Steve Allen, and I didn't have any intention of commenting on this tonight, but I was part of the P&Z board when it was first formed years ago, and we worked on the first comprehensive plan. I think it was the 2020 comprehensive plan. And I remember being a part of those meetings, the discussion we had. You all remember back then there wasn't a lot of commercial and a lot of residential anywhere down in the waterfront. I mean, it was really sort of empty. And as we looked at that plan, sensibly, we took 98, where we had really a mix of a lot of commercial. It was predominantly commercial, and it makes sense that that would be a commercial beltway through the middle of town. It sort of looks like that now. And we looked at Marine Street and down south of 98 and sort of this core central business district. And then we looked at 67 going up to the north. And what we recognized about 67 was that there were people living here, but there were people that might want to open a hair salon or have an office or any of these things. And so that was even meant to be that first row. But I think when we actually mapped it out, we took it from the center of 67 to the first block over, allowing sort of that core group of houses all the way up 67 up toward the prison to be sort of a mixed-use neighborhood where people can have a business, but you also have residential. It's not 98, it's not 67. And from the perspective of what I think our goal was in doing that, not getting into the specific example being looked at here, but our goal was to have a resilient community where people were walking around and living and maybe had a business in their garage or a home or a mix of use of those, and maybe there was a commercial. And that's my only comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment? Okay, Ms. Brink?
More a question.
Okay.
Okay. My name's Kathy Frink. We own the old Carrabelle Hotel, and I'm a realtor. When you go 3 blocks in, there are more families and more residences than there are businesses. We can't sell, trust me, I know, the commercial property we have. So as these families get old or have financial need to sell their houses that they've lived in, these houses have been lived in for 100 years, some of them. And they're told, no, you have to sell it as commercial property because, yeah, let me finish, please. What are we going to do with these empty houses? Not to mention that people are going to be forced to sell for nothing because nobody wants them as commercial property. This affects, I don't know, I would say maybe 40 or 50 families. And some of the houses have been used as businesses. I can't promise, but I swear the one next door to the old empty Dollar General building, I went to a consignment shop in there before. I just know I did. And 2 houses down from the house in question was my office. Seaport Realty, when I first started out for 5 years, it's now being lived in. How can we give it to some, not to others? We have people living above businesses. Come on, get real. We've got to help the people in this city. Trust me, commercial property is hard to sell. We don't need more of it. Thank you. Go
Okay.
ahead and
All right, and thank you.
Just the only comment is just to
all
avoid
right.
confusion, is the policy has always been, when it's residential to residential, we're granting special exceptions. So the thought that if properties have been lived in residentially, they weren't used as a business, then those folks, I can't think of a time they've been denied a special exception, right? So that's not an issue.
I can't think of a time anybody, this will be a
We
first
have,
to
no,
my
no, we-
knowledge. So it's almost like we're singling out one house that's surrounded by people living in their houses. This is just, but I do want to ask a question because I need to know. How did the general public know this? I know you guys know it. Did you advertise it in the paper? Did you send letters to everybody in Carrabelle living in these type houses? How does the general population, it's so obvious to you, but if you've been living in a house for years and years and years and years and years, we bought our house from a woman that was born in it. How did you let the general public know? You need a special exception, or you might be told later you can't sell your house. That's just a question.
Do we have a process for that?
I mean, it's part of the code. It's, I mean, I understand that it can be difficult, but it's not, this is a very routine thing. I can't think of anybody that hasn't, I mean.
I'll just say that we rely heavily on the real estate agents to be forthcoming and to acknowledge that to the prospective buyers and sellers. There are some that sell them and we just don't know about it. So
A lot of houses are set for sale
and
by
Ms. Beth's
owner.
always been one of the ones that's always made sure she goes by the book, and so it's other than the policy, when the policy changed back, that was in 2009. So they had meetings and meetings and meetings after that. So that was when all this was changed.
2009.
Just seems to me that the public needs to be warned, because some people sell their property themselves. Some people pass it on to their children who might not want the burden of the house if they know they've got to run a business. Why not set a date, run ads in the newspaper, and say after this date, we're going to enforce it, because so far you've not enforced it, and now it's going to be hard for people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And
Thank you.
I would just like to say, as far as the special exception, the first time that I ever noticed it, because I've been a realtor since 2000, and then we had the breakdown, the economy fell. We weren't selling any houses in the city, especially any commercial houses, that special exception rule came up until the house by the Dollar General a couple of years ago. And that was the first time that it actually became more publicly known or realtor known at that point.
Ms. Olstein, now, Ms. Olstein, let me ask Mr. Hartman, sits on the Planning and Zoning.
That's okay. I mean, she can
Okay.
speak.
Yeah, for just clarification, don't shoot the messenger. The issue really was the fact that it was commercial. He did not have a special exemption to live there, and so it would be granting an exemption, and the committee, we discussed it at length, really felt strongly about preserving that commercial corridor. Now, had he had an exemption I don't think we would be here today. I think this would be a non-issue. The issue is he didn't follow the rules, he didn't do what he was supposed to, and we, in the committee, wanted to keep that integrity of that commercial building. So that's really all I wanted to say to clarify.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you. All right, do we have any other public comment at this time? All right, does the commission have other questions for Mr. Hartman?
And obviously, you're welcome to ask myself questions, Keisha, any members, anybody that spoke, anybody that's participated.
Maybe I have one more question.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this would be for Keisha or Dan, but as I understand it, many people have home businesses. Does that matter? If you have a home business, whether it's in a commercial district or residential district, does that change any zoning, or does that cause any issues with zoning or permitting or anything like that?
So you have to use the chart. If you notice the yellow going up 67, that's residential office district. So you don't have to have a special exception. You can put a home there. You can have a business in your home, but it has to be a light business, such as a law office, something that's not going to require additional parking. That's that zoning. The rest of the red is the commercial C1 that has the special exception, or the residential use as a special exception. It's not automatically granted like the residential office district. And then in some instances, and I don't have my thing in front of me, but in some home occupations are allowed even in residential, like the R2 mobile home or R1. Some home occupations are allowed, but not commercial businesses. So if you're working from home and you're transcribing, you have your own business, you have it listed as your home, that is allowed because you're not having people come to your home to do business there. So does that explain what you're asking?
Yes, but those people still would have corporations and license with the state addressed to their home.
For a home occupation, right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Sigrid.
So it really depends on the type of business.
So, Mr. Hartman, I have a question. If I have a commercial business, how in the world could I get a homestead exemption?
Totally unrelated, because the homestead is through the county tax, or I should say property appraiser, by the property appraiser's office, so they don't consult with the city.
But it sounds like this homeowner was able to obtain that, so somebody recognized that it was a residential home. Is that correct? If I'm somebody, whoever.
No, all I report on really is what comes from the tax collector's office, where it shows no homestead exemption on the property through until 2020. That's all. I mean, that's just food for thought. Right?
And then I think that because we know the city, that business has moved out and is now in a leased building across the street from us, where we lease. So just wanted to bring that up, that.
Okay, okay, Ms. Beth.
I believe the county has the land use as C1. And it has the use of the property as single-family residential. And I did call the property appraiser to see who tells who what it's done. And they said that they never answered that question. They just said they use that for their taxing system, the way that they do it. So, but it does say, I'm just trying to find it.
And those are irrelevant to the city code because they're
Well, that's why I
rarely
asked.
ever right.
Yeah, and that's why I asked, because to me, if it's in the city, now this is just my thinking, if it's a commercial use, the city should be telling the county, this is commercial.
We do. We try to coordinate with them as we catch
And
them.
it does say land use C1, but for property uses, it says residential, single-family residential.
there's a whole portion of the city that says unbuildable, and all this land's up for sale now, and you wouldn't believe the calls that I'm getting right now because the land use code says unbuildable. And so we just can't go by what's on there because, they had somebody typing it in that, no longer telling, but just those codes does not relate to the city code. I had 3 calls today about unbuildable land that are perfectly buildable, probably with somebody using it as a tax write-off purposes back in the day. So those are irrelevant to the city code as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, well, we can't really discuss amongst ourselves if we want to have discussion until we entertain a motion and have a second so that we can have discussion. So are we at the point where we want to entertain a motion? Do we want to have more questions? And I will remember from these quasi-judicial hearings, Mr. Hartman always says that it is incumbent upon us to either approve, disapprove, or approve with conditions, or we can table to the next meeting. But we do have to make a decision. We're going to have to make a decision sooner or later, and that's approve, disapprove, or approve with conditions. Is that correct, Mr. Hartman?
That's correct.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to approve this special exception.
All right, we have this motion by Commissioner Brown to approve the special exception request. Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Okay, now we can have discussion. Do we have discussion?
I do, if no one
Okay.
else does. Okay, so I understand that they've had a business here since 2016, or what was it, 2018? But they've also lived in this house since 2016, and that is all knowledge to all of us. We all know that. You can look on the website where their house is listed and see it is a home that they live in. It looks like a normal house we all live in. Their businesses are downtown. They haven't been doing business out of this house in quite a while. Just because it's the same owner, and they did obviously have a business there for a while, which that's fine. They don't currently, and they haven't in years. We've granted exceptions to houses that had other uses before or that needed to be completely torn down, which would have made it a vacant piece of land. And we've granted it an exception to be a home, and that's what it is currently, and that's on Highway 98, right next to a commercial building. This is on a back road next to houses. This doesn't make sense that we're singling this house out. That is my opinion, and I understand why your client is requesting this, because they probably want to get a mortgage. And if they want to get a mortgage on it with the C1 zoning, they have to get a commercial mortgage, which will cost them nearly double. And it's not right that they pay that because we're singling them out. Not to mention, like she said, we have so much commercial property available. We talk about it almost at every single meeting that we're in a housing shortage, and we have someone wanting to move here and buy a house and live in that house and be part of our community. And essentially, we're keeping them from it. None of this makes sense. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Do we have other discussion?
I'd like to make some comments.
Okay.
Difficult decision from where I sit. And I've sat and haven't said anything. I've listened to, if you will, the evidence both ways. There's logic behind either decision that's made by this board. There's logic that I see. I somewhat see what was said here a few minutes ago, that We have a lot of commercial property in the city of Carrabelle. We're small. If we were in a big demand for commercial property, might be a different situation. And also, that particular property, house, has been a residence, irregardless to what happened in 2017, what have you. I'm not speaking for that. But he and I grew up here 70 years. That's been a residence. It's been a house. And our CRA board, we talk about blight and clean up the city of Carrabelle and the CRA district and all over the city of Carrabelle all the time. And at the point I'm looking at right here in this particular situation, I had rather see that be used by someone right now and not turn into an old house that's crumbling and falling down and grown over. I'd rather see it be used as a residence. And let's just hypothetically say that that land becomes popular and highly desired and needed for commercial use. That landowner would probably sell to a commercial business if they were in that kind of need. And if there was that kind of commercial growth around them, they probably would want to move. So anyway, it's difficult. I'm just speaking on my behalf. It's a difficult decision. But I'm going to have to, and I want our planning and zoning board to understand from me that they're doing good work. I've sit in their P&Z meetings, never make a comment, which I can't, but they do really good work, and I very much appreciate them. You heard me speak on volunteerism a while ago, and I don't want to go against what planning and zoning done because they do work hard at what they do. They don't just rubber stamp things. They work hard at it and they look at it. So I respect what they do very much. But I'm going to have to be in favor of it. I'd rather see it go that way than I had sit there and do nothing. And there's other things I want to say, but I guess the bottom line is I've sit and listened, like I said, to evidence, pros and cons both ways, and that's the way I feel. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, all right. Do we have any other questions or comments?
I want to make a comment.
Okay, and put your microphone on and to your mouth there. Thank you.
Since I've been on this board, we have took every recommendation that planning and zoning has made, and I pretty well went with it.
That's right.
Because but I just have to feel like this is one time I'm going to have to disagree with them. That home's been there since I was a kid, and it's been lived in, and last thing we want to do is single one home out. I hate it because I listened to what the attorney said that we're changing policy here when we do this. But we live in a very small town, and sometimes we just have to bite the bullet and make tough decisions. I believe this is going to be one of them. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Walden. Do we have any other comment? Anything else? We have a motion and a second. Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay, then, any other?
I'm good.
You're ready. Is the rest of us ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right, then. We have that motion by Commissioner Brown and second by Commissioner Millender to approve the request for special exception for residential use at this location. So, all in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. And thank you, Mr. Hartman, for your presentation. Thank
Yes.
you, public, for your comments and input. And thank you, commission, for your due diligence in listening. And mostly thank the P&Z for the work that you do. And please continue that good work. We do.
Yes.
I'm
It
going to
is
say
appreciated.
99% of the time, we take your recommendations and we depend on you to do that good work and take the politics out of it when you do, because you aren't elected, and I appreciate that. Okay, Miss Beth.
I just want to say thank you for Miss Wilson. She's real excited. She's ready to be a resident here, and she will be very shortly. So thank you so much.
Encourage her to come to meetings. Maybe we need a break.
All right, I'm hearing break, whispers of break. Okay? Can we take a recess here, about 8 minutes? Okay. All right, good evening. We're reconvening this regular meeting of the Carrabelle City Commission, and we're going to begin our new business. And we have item 1, discussion and possible action regarding advertisement to sell surplus city property located at 199 Northwest 11th Street. This is requested by Mr. Sean Oxendine. So, who wants to tell about this property and this location?
I'm familiar with it simply
Okay.
because I dealt with the prior owners. I was asked to look at it because it was anticipated to be part of the city's drainage project in that area. We had asked those owners for an easement. They, in turn, decided, they thought, well, we'd rather just sell it. We don't want to hassle with an easement. And the city purchased it 2 months ago. And I was just talking to Russell a minute ago about it. It's certainly up to the city. We have home rule power. We can sell our own property. And what we would do, we certainly have the right to surplus it, but we would want to, if we were going to surplus it, we would sell it subject to an easement, so that if and when that project moves forward, we'd be able to, it would involve that property. It would still involve that property, any drainage project in that area. So.
Okay, I heard Commissioner Millender first.
Okay. Hey, I'm in no hurry. I'll give my opinion on it real quick. City currently owns the property. Dan just explained the process and how we acquired the property. We were actually trying to get an easement to go along with this drainage issue. My feeling is I'm not really interested in surplusing and selling the property at this point. I had rather maintain the ownership of the property and get us through whatever is decided down the road on this drainage issue and get us to that point. We don't know exactly what our needs are going to be yet. And so I'd rather maintain the ownership of the property instead of having to surplus it, sell it, and then go to an owner and a future owner and try to get an easement if we need it for this issue. Now, at the end of this drainage issue, and we resolve it, whatever may happen and whenever it may happen, then if we want to surplus the property and put it out to bid, as Courtney has explained to me, and which I knew from the state government, you can't just sell to one individual. You have to surplus it and put it out to open to the public. And at that point, I'd be willing to do that. But at this point, I'd rather we just maintain ownership of it until we resolve the drainage issue.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brown?
I was going to ask something similar. What, for Mr. Oxendine, what's the rush in us selling it? Would it cause any problems with you if we just finished what we needed to do here and then at the end of it made it available for the public?
No, there's no hurry at all. The reason that I'm here tonight is to start with, when I discussed this with Mr. Large, that I was going to try to get the property and y'all decided to take it off the tax rolls and buy it, that I would give a easement.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, the reason that I'm here is my chances of buying it aren't, I was gonna deal with one individual, and now I've gotta deal with the public.
Yep.
So the same way that there is no hurry.
Okay.
But the same way that you own it right now. You can put in any stipulation that you want, that easement's able to go through there. You can do that. But why I'm here tonight is, chances are, it was real good if I was dealing with one individual. But now, thanks to Mr. Large, I'm dealing with the public. When and if I ever get a chance to deal with them, I'm asking, the same way you're gonna get that easement, if, I don't know the laws, I mean, the property's not buildable, but my nightmare and fear is that there'll be a billboard sign put up there one day, and when and if you do sell that, I would ask that y'all put a stipulation that can never happen. That wouldn't be a real I wouldn't want to see that every time I cross that bridge.
That's
To
understandable.
see some land development company that's using the truck route wrong, sign up there.
Okay, okay, yes, I heard that. I heard that.
So-
Thank you.
And that's all, and there's no rush. There is no rush.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay,
Sean.
thank you.
Mhm, we appreciate that. So,
I'm gonna make a motion that we table
okay,
this item until a future date unnamed.
all right, and do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. And I agree with Commissioner Millender's description. After I had time to think about it, we do need to do what needs to be done with the drainage issue before anything happens. Okay.
I just, why would the city take something off of the tax roll to buy it to start with? That's what
Well, so that it would be easy to handle the drainage, and we wouldn't have to go and try to get easement again. And
I told your representative that I would give you an easement.
but that all of that is water under the bridge,
It is, isn't it?
Tilly Miller Bridge, so.
Hopefully it will be.
I want to tell the commission here that I forgot to ask, and since we're on this property here, and we have this on Enovia's work order, I forgot to ask, and I've got it marked here on his report, that, but so we'll go ahead and handle this, but we're in discussion, and I would like to bring it up about his bids that he's got for this project coming up after we finish this vote, if that's all right with y'all. Okay. So is there any more discussion on this than to table this until a date to be determined?
No.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. And please excuse me for forgetting to bring this up to under Russell's report, but this involves the Ryan Drive improvements is what that the city obtained that property for, was to conduct drainage improvements. And you reported that your bids from the contractors to do that job are on March the 14th. Is there any way that we can entertain those bids on March the 19th?
Yes, in fact, that's one reason why we scheduled the bid for that date.
Okay,
So
so
we-
that
we
gives
would-
you
gives
enough time to review
analyze.
and make
Right.
recommendation. Okay,
Right.
then would this board be interested in scheduling a special meeting for March the 19th to hear those recommendations from Inovio regarding the bids that came in? And that is the day of our CRA board meeting. We could do it at 1 o'clock or after the meeting, you know, at 3 or 3:30. What do y'all think?
1 o'clock would be ideal.
Is that all right with you, Mr. Large?
Yes.
Okay, you'd
Yes,
be
ma'am.
able to. All right, so I've had a suggestion for 1 o'clock special meeting on March the 19th.
Motion for that meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, and that motion, Ms. Keisha, is for March the 19th at 1 PM for a special meeting to entertain the bid recommendations regarding the Ryan Drive improvements. And the motion is by Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Brown. Is there any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries, excuse me. All right. We'll move on then to item 2, and thank you for coming to the meeting, Mr. Oxendine. Item 2 is discussion of possible action concerning a request for proposal for demolition of the old school City Hall building, and this is submitted by Inovio Consulting.
All right, thank you. On this item, we've had discussion on this before, and I had a separate discussion with Commissioner Millender. So we have developed a draft request for bids, and this is for the demolition and salvage of the school building. The building to be demolished would be that highlighted in blue. The second building, which has the call-out highlighted in yellow in the top left, that's a call-out for the contractor to protect that building. That's the one that you indicated we wanted to keep and not demolish. The thick red lines, that's temporary fencing. During the time in which this is being demolished, I think it's smart to protect the city and have fencing put in place. The blue line across the bottom, that's the existing fence, so that would tie in there. That's the general outline of what would be demolished and salvaged by the bidder. We do have some language that goes with this, and we do have a complete request for bid document similar to what we would do for most any other projects. Courtney, I'll start at the last page of this document, which is general notes and pay item notes. I think this is provides some description here, and I'll read some of that information. So just under the project descriptions, we're asking the bidder, we're telling the bidder that the city wants the complete removal of the building as depicted in the plan. Elements of the existing building have salvage value, which the city expects to be evaluated by each bidder, and that value deducted from cost of demolition. The owner is not providing specifications. The owner's expectation and the purpose is to identify an entity that can safely remove this building. And we do indicate that the removal of the foundation is also to be included. Okay, that's under the project description. On item 3 there, the examination of the contract documents. The bidder must evaluate the contract documents, project site, the building, to be informed as to the materials, equipment, and scope of work. The provisions for scheduling project site visits are in the invitation to bidder section, and we'll go over that in just a moment. The bidders are to inform themselves of the construction procedures and requirements, labor, other conditions, and factors which would affect the prosecution and completion of the work, facilitate transportation, handling, storage, and equipment. There will be no subsequent financial adjustment based on the lack of prior site investigation, knowledge, misunderstanding of materials, equipment needed, site restrictions, or any other categorical items and their effect on the cost. And the bidder agrees that all factors have been properly investigated and considered in the bid preparation. So it's the responsibility of the bidder to make sure that he understands what's required to demolish the building. Okay, we have a pay item note. This is, and we'll take a look at the bid form in a moment, but this is a description of what we're asking the contractor. Yes, sir?
Before you go any further, Mr. Russell, and it's no different than what I've tried to convey all along, the emphasis on salvage,
yes,
and not just demolition.
Agreed.
Emphasis on salvage to where we can get some financial support out of that thing.
Agreed.
Versus just going in there and destroying it and taking away everything that has value to it.
Right, agreed.
Okay.
And this next, the pay item note here addresses that, and feel free to make comments. All right, so the pay item note for the building demolition. This item includes all labor, equipment, materials to demolish and remove all building materials, mechanical equipment, plumbing, electrical, lighting, and all other appurtenances associated with the former high school building. All materials are to be salvaged to the greatest extent possible. Salvage value is to be determined by the bidder based on project site investigation and considered when determining the amount of this lump sum bid item. Salvageable and non-salvageable materials become the property of the bidder and are to be properly disposed of in accordance with local, state, and federal requirements. All materials are to be removed from the project site. So we're trying to make the point that there is salvage value here, and the bidder should include that in his bid.
Well, if they don't, that it'll be an incomplete bid.
Yes, and someone else may consider it.
Correct.
And win, right. Let's see, Courtney, can we look at page 23? All right, that's the bid form on page 23, and we have a lump sum item, which is the building demolition. The pay item note that we just read is associated with that lump sum item. And then we have some unit price items. One is the temporary fence. We want to make sure that they seed and mulch the area when they're finished. So we have a square yard quantity for seed and mulch. And then sediment barrier for erosion control, we have that also included as a linear foot item. Okay, and then Courtney, back up to the instructions to bidders. That would be page 10.
Do you need now to?
It's
Commissioner
okay.
Brown.
Go ahead.
Okay, so for the seed and mulch and the turf, is that normal procedure when someone clears a building? I just don't know.
Yes, I mean, otherwise it would be raw, bare earth. So we're asking them to grass it,
Yeah, okay.
essentially. Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Russell, and on the same note, are we asking them to take the slab away?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Because that's gonna be pretty substantial.
It is. It is. And in section 3 of that last part we were just reading, I clearly state that includes the foundation.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I was, and I got mixed thoughts about it on keeping the foundation versus destroying the foundation. So, anyway.
On one hand, as you pointed out to me, certain contractors would like to have that concrete material because they'll use that crushed concrete for base material, for example.
Right.
If a roadway contractor would use that material.
Or riprap.
Yes.
Or riprap.
This contractor could use it for salvage and sell
That
it
would
to
be,
one of those.
that could be
Yes.
considered salvage.
Part of the salvage, that's
Absolutely.
correct.
Absolutely.
I mean, that would be, I would salvage it.
Yeah.
Well,
if I
absolutely,
could,
absolutely,
you
I
know.
would expect them to,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Okay, we do want to make sure that the bidders are allowed adequate opportunity to come and review the property, look through the building, determine, so they can make their determination on the salvage value. So I wanted to make sure that we have a section in here for a site visit and testing by the bidders. And so we say the bidder may schedule a site visit for the purpose of evaluating the salvage value of materials associated with the proposed demolition or for general examination otherwise. And then we ask them to contact the City of Carrabelle to schedule specific dates. And the site would be available for access for up to 6 hours between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. I thought that was a reasonable period of time. I didn't limit that to a number of visits. I just asked them to schedule a visit with the city.
And is that acceptable, Ms. Courtney?
Most anybody can get in there anyway.
Attachments to the contract include the plans, which we just saw. And by the way, I colored that for our purpose of presenting it today. Those aren't in the actual document, the color parts. So we have the plans. We have this document that we're just looking at, which includes some other general conditions. And then we have the asbestos report that was done previously, and that was done for the city. And those would be the contract documents. So 3 elements of the contract documents.
Well, I'm not the expert on this. We have to rely on our professionals that we hire. He's handled plenty of other bids, so.
It is a little different.
Yes, because of the salvage.
Right, and I did quite a bit of research, and I found some other folks that did some salvage work, which they did it different than what we're proposing here. But I don't think this is incorrect.
Hope not.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have another comment, Commissioner Melander?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you're getting like Frank Mathis. I could tell by the way he breathed. I knew when he was ready to talk.
Well, I'm not breathing on you.
No, he's not breathing on you, but I can tell when you're ready to talk. Okay, go ahead, please, sir.
Russell, I don't know about the rest of the board, but I'm somewhat of a penny pincher. Were you saying at the completion of the operation, mulching and seeding? I don't know from my standpoint that you would want to spend those funds to do that. Just a final grade, and that's because it's what you're gonna find underneath it's pretty much is sand. Just a final grade and leave, because we don't know what we're gonna do with it. I wouldn't want to spend a lot of money on site prep and then hopefully work out something with a housing construction people that's gonna go in there and demolish what we just spent money on. And the fencing, I think we can pretty much close off the front of it. There's only one space. There's no entrance way in the back unless you go through that front fence. We could pretty much close that thing off to where people wouldn't have access to it during the demolish period, with the exception of the school bus employees. And I don't know that, because I have a feeling what you described there as fencing to go around that thing, and I do understand it, that's probably gonna be a fair expense. Anyway, all I'm trying to do is nitpick it and find ways to save money. So that's just my feeling, board. I don't know about the rest of you guys.
I agree with the grass and the turf. That's why I was asking if that's normal, because I don't see the
Well, it wouldn't be
reason
sod, though,
for
it's seed, right?
Right.
But what about if we had, once they took it down, graded it, as Commissioner Melander decides, could we have streets and roads hay it? And to stop, that would help stop deterioration and erosion.
You could, and I'll say this: it's difficult to establish grass in Carrabelle in general.
It is.
And it would be a temporary, the seed would germinate, it would be green, but that will die, and then whatever's going to grow there
Weeds.
naturally will take root. Yeah.
Yes, Mr.
Yes.
Christopherson.
Just a quick question on the demo. Commissioner Melander had mentioned that there was some really deep pylons or caissons or something going down in the ground. Are they going to be removing those? I mean,
Yeah, that
do
is.
they even know it's there?
Right, that is a good question. That's a good question, thank you. I think it would be smart to point out to the contractor that those do exist and ask him to cut those, say, at 2 feet depth under natural grade. So those would remain, but we would cut those off. I don't think there's a way to really remove them. Yeah. Yeah, but cut them off 2 feet below the ground surface. I think that's smart.
We do have the building plans for that building, so they could.
Oh, that's, yes.
Yeah.
They're very large.
Well,
sets.
let's add that to the contract documents.
It would take a scan on it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's probably 50 pages.
Okay.
But I think there's enough fencing in that, around that building here and there, fenced off playgrounds and such, that fence could be moved and put across the front of it, but how do we get that done? How do you suggest that?
Well, it may be in the bid for them to move that little
Okay,
bit right there.
all right.
Because our streets and roads, they're kind of maxed.
Yes, sir, they are. I was hesitant to say they could hay it, but that's not going to be like relocating fence.
Right.
Yeah, maybe they could take a look at the fence and use the fencing that's there.
All
So
right.
they don't have to, I don't know if they probably have fencing that they use, temporary
Probably.
fencing.
That's what I was thinking.
That's
They
a
do.
good thought, too, Mayor.
They do. They may look at that and it may be cheaper for them to use their own fence.
Just bring it in and set it up like they do
Right.
around fairgrounds and
Right.
such.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Do we,
Thank
do we want to take action for Russell to finalize his draft proposal? I'm going to call it a draft
Okay.
proposal
Yes,
because you got a
draft.
couple of things to add
Right.
and remove. And then let him advertise this?
I agree.
Can we do that?
Do we need a
Okay.
motion?
Yeah, go ahead and motion.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to direct Mr. Russell to finalize the draft with the adjustments that we discussed tonight. Is that good?
That's good. We're all in training. We're always
No, I
in
don't
training.
know what all to include.
Second.
And then advertise for.
Oh, and advertise for bid.
Okay, and that's a second by Commissioner Melander. So that's to direct Russell to finalize the request for proposal with the adjustments that we discussed, and then to move forward with advertising the bid. And that's by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Melander.
So, can I ask questions now?
Okay, and we're in
And so
discussion.
we're
We have a question.
removing the fence and the sod and turf, is that what we discussed?
I think we agreed to let them handle their fence because they have temporary
Right.
fencing. They'll come in and have that put up in a half day or less probably. But to remove the turf and the whatever,
seed or-
we'll
Okay.
have streets and roads ahead or put
Right.
down something.
And we're only gonna request that they fence across the front of the property, the north side of the property, instead of all the way around.
Is that,
Correct.
can we see that picture again?
The red part?
Well, we pretty much, as the mayor pointed out, pretty much have fence down the east side
Yep.
and down the front side of the school, except for right there in the center. And the school board has it
Yeah.
closed off right there. going
Now,
to
what
the-
about
I
the?
think,
Or whatever, yeah.
What about the backside? Is it,
I'll confirm this, but I think there's an existing fence further to the south, up against the tree line. I think there's a fence all the way
There,
back
there
there.
he is down Barefoot
That's
Lane.
correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I'll check that and just make sure that it's closed off. Yeah.
all right. Anything else?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
cut the
Yeah.
islands.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Gray?
That's good. No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Are we ready? Any other discussion? Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries, and we're moving forward on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move forward. Item 3, under new business, discussion of possible action regarding the scope of work presented by the Appalachia Regional Planning Council to create city zoning maps. Ms. Keisha, you want to, and did everyone receive the copy of the agreement? You didn't receive a copy of the
Where,
agreement?
oh, was that in our attachments? Yeah, yes.
And I did ask Mr. Hartman to review that agreement for correctness and any proposed revisions, and
Yes, no, the agreement, it looks fine, and I'm trying to think of what we talked about the need potentially moving forward to keep it up to date. And we can certainly, if you'd like, I can reach out to the ARPC and then check with them on that kind of terms. We can include that. We can add that to this agreement, or just work that out with them after they conduct this initial effort, which will be really nice. Having on our, people will be able to. We'll finally get it
Yes.
off the crayon boards that we have.
which those need to be
They've been
framed
fine,
and hung
but-
up in the.
It's time.
Okay.
It's time to
So,
move.
Keisha,
on.
when you talked with them, does it seem like they're going to develop something that you'll be able to use, and the public as well?
Yes, and she actually had me go on to a couple other jurisdictions and look at theirs, and it's going to be so user-friendly for a lot of the real estate agents and prospective buyers and sellers, and They'll be able to link the code of ordinance, so if they need a special exception, that'll pop right up on that property.
Oh.
So
It's so
everything,
Uh-huh.
it'll include flood, zoning, future land use, anything that we can think of to attach an overlay that we already have. It'll be just all in one place. So it's very exciting. I don't have anything to send people, especially for our zoning map, because we have the crayon map, and it's been a wish, and the hours that it'll take off of me, just phone calls, and, it's just, it's amazing.
Yes, Miss Courtney.
Will we be able to pay for that out of the building department?
We budgeted that.
American Rescue Plan, but if they charge us for
Yearly.
annual fee, can that come out of the building department?
We could
planning?
probably share it. I mean, I don't know that we could cover the whole cost. I mean, we could link building permit application to it and stuff like that. So we can definitely link some building department stuff, but they can't cover the whole cost because zoning is not building.
Okay. And then I talked with Mr. Hartman that, this contract does not include an annual renewal or an update of those digital maps.
Right, and I apologize. I haven't
That's okay.
had a chance to reach out to her since I got your email, but I can if y'all, if you want to table it until the 19th, that would give me some more time to reach out, or if you just want to move forward and then, go from there.
Well,
We can do a contract amendment or anything like
yeah.
that. I don't think there'll be any
Mr.
problem.
Hartman and I said, it might not be necessary to do it every year.
And I
Every
think so,
other year.
too.
Now, certainly if you do a comprehensive plan update, which is, Mr. Hartman reminded me, going to have to be done in 2 years, so y'all get ready for it. That's a big job. But something like that certainly would probably need a remake of it.
Right.
But I don't, unless we have some really fast growth, in a year, some major changes, it probably wouldn't need to be updated, but every year or
the only
every other
thing
year.
that really would need to have to update would be the owner's name, but it's not going to change the use of the property, or what's allowed. And so the only thing really that would be changing would be the owner's name, because they're getting that shade file from the property appraisers.
And then FEMA, but they don't change their flood zones. That's once in a lifetime.
We've got we just changed in 2019, so it's, well, it's usually a 5-year process. I guess it will be coming up, but it takes 5 years for them to do it again, so it's almost a 10-year process.
Because it is linked to the property appraiser, wouldn't that just auto-update?
It wouldn't be linked. We would just get their shade file. So it wouldn't be linked to their actual website. We use the overlay for that, and we use it in our building department portal. There, you can click, and it goes to where the building permit's at on a map, but it doesn't always have the correct name. I have to manually go in and change it when somebody applies for a permit if the owners have changed. So.
Will this be, so I'm assuming, it seemed like it, that it's going to be, they'll develop a link to a portal, and that will be on the website so that the public can have access to it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It'll be on our homepage.
That would be a good thing. I mean, that would really move us
It really would.
into the 21st, and we're well there now, so.
No more crayons.
Yeah.
I actually took pictures years ago, came in and got that map, and took close-up pictures of it, enlarged them, and had them laminated and gave all the P&Z members one. So that's what they use. So, well, I'm ready to entertain a motion to go ahead and get this thing moving.
Yeah, I
Since
will
we
make
have
a
the
motion
funding.
to
Okay.
approve.
Okay, and Keisha, thank you for working with them on that. I appreciate it. So we
It's
have.
my
the
pleasure.
All right, very good. We have the motion by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Walden to approve the agreement and scope of work presented by the Appalachia Regional Planning Council to create city zoning maps.
At my first ARPC meeting this year, they went over this and showed us examples. I was like, Keisha's going to love this.
Very good. All right, any further discussion then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Budgetary. Go back to what Keisha said. If as much money as we can spend out of her budget to pay for that, Courtney and I talked, I'm penny pinching again. As much money as we can save out of that American Rescue Plan, we need it on paving projects. Or
demo.
I even bartered with
Yeah,
them.
demo.
Yeah.
I even bartered with them for this price. This is half price than they normally do it for. So I even went, and explained we're
Nice.
smaller. You already have most of the information.
Right.
There's not very little you need from us, and they did come back at half price. So
Good job.
we,
Okay.
But anyway, pay for as much of as you can out of your budget. Then that way you.
the initial is going to have to come from
Yeah. And we had budgeted 75,000.
1,000.
Oh, 75,000.
Yeah, we thought we was going to have to rewrite the whole thing.
I
So
think we first off, we budgeted more than that.
100.
Doggone right.
We got a steal of a deal.
Is that
So I
all
have
right?
We can pave
pinched
another
some pennies.
road.
Money now?
Okay. Demo. Demo. All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries.
All right, we're all getting silly now.
Okay,
We need
yeah.
to reel it in.
But we got the State of the Union is, so we got to get home for that. Brenda does.
That.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, old business, item 1, discussion of possible action regarding a new City of Carrabelle logo. What do we
I
have?
don't have any update, but I have
so
give
sweet.
them the go ahead and do a logo, but I haven't heard back from them. I mean,
Okay.
other than she's working on it. I've heard, I'm working on it, but I don't have any updated
I do know that
information.
it took the county a long time to get their logo, but they got it and they like it and it's really pretty.
And two, it may take longer because she's working on the CRA logo, so
And you gave
Yeah.
her feedback?
I gave her the feedback
Okay.
on the CRA.
Oh.
Now, she'll have to submit us a preliminary first
For the
three
city.
of the city logo, and then we'll give her some feedback on that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, what if we don't put this item on the agenda?
Until
Let's
you
say
get
table it
something.
to be determined. How about
Like-
that?
I've prepared. I was
Whenever
just waiting on
Courtney
you.
gets the feedback.
Perfect.
Okay, so I'll motion to table to be, to table to be determined.
Second.
Okay. And that's when Ms. Courtney gets the feedback. And any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries, and it's been a wonderful meeting. I love you all. Thank you. We're adjourned.